watching Dontaesboxingnation.
You are now the mandatory challenger for Vasily Lomachenko's 135-pound title. Do you believe at 20 years old you're ready for that type of challenge?
I think you said his name wrong. It's Lomachenko because he doesn't want to fight me. But it's I feel like I'm ready for the fight. This is the WBC mandatory. So Lomachenko, come on, man, let's get this fight going. If I'm so easy, Lomachenko should just fight me and get me out the way.
The lightweight limit. Oh, and they are getting after it.
Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos.
I've respected him, and he knows how much I've respected him, and there is a mutual respect here.
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So I played those clips just to sum up what's been going on in the lightweight division for at least the last 3 years, right? Devin Haney was the first fighter to call out Vasily Lomachenko, as you've seen in the clip. At age 20, Devin was calling out Lomachenko. He was his mandatory. Rather than fight the mandatory and defend his title, Lomachenko, he chose to vacate his title. The second fighter to start calling out Lomachenko was Teofimo Lopez. Of course, Vasily Lomachenko, he chose to fight Lopez, obviously thinking the Lopez fight would be easier than the Devin Haney fight. We all know what happened there. He lost to Lopez, and then Lopez, he decides to fight Kambosos, thinking that Kambosos will be easier than Devin Haney. He loses to Kambosos. Now we have the most significant fight in the entire division, which is Devin Haney versus George Kambosos for undisputed. Now, about a week ago, Gervonta Tank Davis, he was doing an interview with like a hip hop channel, and he was asked the question, have you ever asked for any of these big fights? Lomachenko, Devin Haney, have you ever said you want to fight these guys? And Gervonta Tank Davis, being extremely honest, he said, no, actually, I never asked for any of these fights. After he said that, that kind of shook up the internet. It shook up the boxing world, I should say. A couple days later, now I had made a video about it, and I told you guys that Devin Haney fighting against George Kambosos for undisputed, it's a game changer in the lightweight division, because it puts pressure on all of the other top lightweights. When I say the other ones, I'm talking about Lomachenko, Ryan Garcia, and even Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, when it comes to Gervonta Tank Davis in particular, assuming that he gets past Rolly Romero, which of course a lot of people believe that he will, the only fights that really make sense for him next would be either Ryan Garcia, Vasily Lomachenko, or the winner of George Kambosos versus Devin Haney. And once again, after Gervonta Tank Davis did that interview where he acknowledged, or he admitted, I should say, that he never asked for any of these fights, he did a more recent interview with another channel. But the people who did this interview, I don't understand why a lot of these boxers, they go onto these platforms where these guys, they know nothing about boxing. I mean, sure, they know who Mike Tyson is, they know who Gervonta Tank Davis is, but they are extreme casual fans. And you can tell by the type of questions they ask, you can tell how they continuously keep cutting off Gervonta. They weren't really showing him any respect. And most importantly, they didn't know what they were talking about. They were putting out false information as they were asking Gervonta questions. And the strangest thing is Gervonta Tank Davis, he wasn't even correcting this guy. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip, but I want you guys to pay attention how the guy interviewing Gervonta Tank Davis is basically telling fans not to buy his next fight. I'm gonna go deeper into that later on in the video. But watch how he downplays the Rolly Romero fight. Then he starts to defend Ryan Garcia for avoiding Gervonta Tank Davis like over a year ago. Just check out this clip and I'm gonna unpack it.
Do we want to talk about Rolly, or do we want to just kind of move on because you should take care of business? And
I mean, he did say you can't overlook any opponent.
Yeah, 100%. You can't overlook an opponent, but like you're a massive favorite, and your skill set and your resume.
That's what get people.
100%. You're not wrong about that. But everyone that knows you and knows your pedigree just wants to talk about the fight after the next fight.
Who?
Well, that's the question I'm going to ask for you. Is that going to be Ryan Garcia? Is that going to be Lomachenko? Who is that going to be?
Hopefully we could get even. To be honest, I really wanted. I can't say who they had set it up.
No, you can say who you really want. It's okay.
I can't say who they had set up for me after, but I want to get the winner out of Devin and Kambosos.
But don't you think they're going to fight twice? There's probably a rematch clause there. I think there is, actually.
Yeah,
That'd be great. I mean, I'd love to see it.
So
but
I'm probably going to have to fight Ryan.
Ooh.
Garcia?
Okay, so we got plenty of questions about that.
Okay, so once again, you guys heard how this guy, he was completely trying to downplay the Rolly Romero fight. Like it wasn't even worth people tuning in to watch it. Now, I'm going to completely break that down. But before I do, I want to play another clip of this guy basically trying to defend Ryan Garcia for not fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. Listen to why he says Ryan Garcia didn't take the fight.
Is that an actual makeable fight, though? Because,
of course.
Well, no, I asked that, Gervonta, because didn't last summer you guys came really close to making that fight?
For him, it wasn't. He the one turned it down. He went
because he wanted to go Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, but that,
which is ridiculous.
Why would you turn down a fight with me to fight Manny Pacquiao? And Manny Pacquiao, they ain't never heard about that.
Yeah, I don't know why Ryan. We talked about this earlier, Chad, before we started taping. But I don't know why Ryan would go up multiple weight divisions to go fight Manny. I mean, I get that you're gonna make a shit ton of money, and it's Manny Pacquiao. It's like, you know, the spotlight, but that's a huge jump up in skill level and weight. But I guess just to confirm though, you guys were somewhat close, but Ryan basically ducked out of negotiations and didn't want to deal with you and decided to go with Manny.
But listen, why would he turn a fight down with me to fight Manny Pacquiao? Because
wouldn't he get more money with Manny though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a hell of a risk. That's a lose-lose situation.
I agree. It would have been dicey.
It would have been a dicey situation, is what this guy says. See, this is what puzzles me. Gervonta is sitting there listening to this guy. Why wouldn't Gervonta correct this man immediately and say Ryan Garcia didn't fight Manny Pacquiao? In fact, Oscar De La Hoya said that Ryan was promoting that fight just for Instagram. It wasn't real. The fight never happened. So Ryan could have went right back to negotiating with Gervonta Tank Davis. Just like George Kambosos, he originally wanted to fight Lomachenko. But because Lomachenko decided to stay in his home country, Ukraine, and fight for his country, George Kambosos went with plan B, which was Devin Haney. At least his plan B. Gervonta could have educated this guy right there, and he could have said, actually, Ryan Garcia, he said that if he didn't get the Manny Pacquiao fight, he assured the fans he would be fighting against Gervonta Tank Davis. So not only did we find out that the Manny Pacquiao situation was a hoax, Ryan was then supposed to fight Javier Fortuna. Ryan Garcia, he pulled out of that fight. Then he had an anxiety attack and took a layoff from boxing. So the question is, why is this guy that's interviewing Gervonta Tank Davis telling Tank the reason why Ryan didn't fight you is because he wanted to move up multiple weight classes and fight Manny Pacquiao, and because he was going to make more money? You know, I got to give this guy more credit than I was giving him, because actually he's not just a casual fan. Clearly this man, he stays on code just like old media does. The Max Kellermans, the Chris Mannixes, the Mike Coppingers. My thing is this: if Gervonta Tank Davis is going to allow these type of guys to disrespect him and tell people not to watch his next fight, the least you could do if you're going to do the interview with them is at least check them and inform them with the actual facts, educate them. I mean, going off of this guy's logic, if there's no reason to talk about fights where the A side is expected to win, then this guy would have to say the same thing about at least 75% of the matchups in the sport of boxing today. Just in case you missed the interview, I'll put the link in the description so you guys can watch the actual interview. But there was a segment in this interview where Gervonta Tank Davis, he was trying to explain the whole situation with Devin Haney, the sparring and if it's beef or not. He went into detail explaining how it all started. While Gervonta is breaking this down and he's about to give the boxing world, he's about to answer questions in detail. Real boxing fans, they want to hear this story. You know what these guys that are interviewing Gervonta Tank Davis did? As Gervonta Tank Davis is telling this story of how the beef and how the sparring went with Devin Haney, they cut him off and say, wait a minute, how long ago did this happen? Like 10 years ago? Oh man, let's talk about something else. And it was so disrespectful that Gervonta Tank Davis, he just completely ignored this guy saying that, and he continued telling the story. They would ask Gervonta Tank Davis questions and then ask the same question over and over again. And you could see Gervonta once again trying to respect them, being a little bit irritated. As he answers the same question again, you could tell he's answering it in a way like, I just answered that question. Man, some of these black boxers, they gotta stop jumping on popular podcasts because it's a popular hip hop podcast or whatever. Because in this interview in particular, all they pretty much did was disrespect Gervonta Tank Davis. It was extremely offensive, and it was racially offensive when they didn't even want to promote Gervonta's next fight. What's the purpose of going on to this hip hop or whatever type of podcast it is where they have all of these views and subscribers, and they don't even want to help you promote your very next fight? This is why this is so racially offensive. Because we know when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, when it comes to any fighter that's not black, they don't care if Canelo is fighting against Josito Lopez, who moved up 2 weight classes to fight him. They don't care if Canelo is fighting against Amir Khan, if he's fighting against Yildirim, if he's fighting against Caleb Smith. When have you ever heard someone interview Canelo Alvarez and say, do we even need to talk about you fighting against Yildirim next? Because we already know what you're going to do to him. So if the world wants to know who's going to be next, they never said that. Because when it came to Canelo Alvarez or anyone else on the hope list, they actually wanted him to fight someone that was going to guarantee a win for Canelo. It was the complete opposite. When Canelo Alvarez fought James Kirkland, they promoted that fight, old media that is. They promoted that fight like it was Canelo fighting against Jamal Charlo. So the point is, Rolly Romero, he might not be considered the best lightweight in the division, but we all know this for a fact, that if Ryan Garcia was fighting against Rolly Romero, if Lomachenko was fighting against Rolly Romero, if George Kambosos was fighting against Rolly Romero, this would be considered a big fight. It was the same situation when it comes to the Isaac Cruz fight against Gervonta Tank Davis. Because they felt that Gervonta was going to win, they felt they had to discredit the fight. You see, deep down, everyone knew that Isaac Cruz was really a good opponent. But once again, the racists, they had to stay on code because they did not want the win to look good if the wrong guy was going to get credit for the win. I tell you guys all the time, the truth always comes to light. And now we find out that Ryan Garcia wasn't even ready for Isaac Cruz. So the question is, how can Isaac Cruz be a cherry pick for Gervonta Tank Davis, but Ryan Garcia didn't even feel he was ready to take on a challenge like that? Now, once again, as long as Isaac is not fighting Gervonta, Isaac becomes a really good, dangerous fighter. So at the end of the day, Tank Davis basically just did this interview with these people so they could sabotage his next fight and tell people Ryan Garcia didn't take the fight against him because he was on the bigger and better things, moving up 2 weight classes for more money to fight against the great Manny Pacquiao. At the end of the day, the only thing we really got out of this interview was hearing Gervonta make it clear for the very first time that he wants the winner of Devin Haney and George Kambosos, and if he can't get that fight, he wants to fight Ryan Garcia. This was kind of similar to Errol Spence coming out and saying for the very first time that he wants Terrence Crawford next. Not the fight is going to happen eventually, but he wants him next. This is a little analogous to that situation when it comes to Gervonta calling out the winner of Devin Haney versus Kambosos. Once again, Devin fighting against Kambosos, it completely changes the game in the lightweight division. And Gervonta Tank Davis is showing that he understands this. But he's going to have to wait for that fight for a while because there is a rematch clause unless Devin Haney ends up beating George Kambosos so convincingly that George doesn't even want the rematch. That's a possibility. And then, of course, you still have the option of Gervonta fighting against Ryan Garcia. There's talks now that Oscar De La Hoya is meeting with Ryan Garcia to make the Isaac Cruz fight. We'll see how it all plays out, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
I'm excited, dog.
So how long did that take right there? How much you were saying?
Like 2 hours.
That was it?
This the first section.
So this. Oh, so it get better than that?
Oh yeah, I'm just starting him off. I gotta see him.
Well, you came to the right man, dog.
So
you came to the right
this
one.
brother here walked in, looking to get his stuff done. He just got his first session. What do you think?
It definitely looked good. It's perfect to me. You know what I mean?
Perfect to me too.
Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man ScalpCarolinas on Instagram. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called LO Key Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to lodkey.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.